Hello students, today's lesson is going to go into depth with circles and how to graph them and write the equation when you're given pieces of information. So let's review what the standard equation is for a circle. It is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And in standard form, the h, k, so the numbers that are in the place of hk, this is going to be the center of your circle. And then if you take the square root of whatever that number is equal to, so whatever r squared is, if you take the square root of that, that's going to represent your radius. Okay, and those are the pieces of information that you will need to be able to graph a circle. Okay, so let's look at our first example. It says graph x minus 1 squared plus y plus 4 squared equals 25. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to write down what our center is and what our radius is. So the center for this circle, you're always going to take the opposite of these numbers that are right here. So the center, and make sure that that first number that you write down is with the x value, because sometimes they get them they rearrange them. And so the center is going to be the ordered pair 1, negative 4. Notice that I took the opposite of each of these numbers for my center. Okay, and then the square root of 25 is going to be equal to your radius. So your radius is 5. All right. So to graph this circle, what we're going to do is we're going to graph our center first. So we're going to go to 1, negative 4, and we're going to put a point. Okay, and then the radius is, of course, going to go left and right of that point and up and down of that point. So if we go to the right 5, we're going to be here. If we go to the left 5, we're going to be here. If we go up 5, we're going to be here, and if we go down 5, we're going to be off our graph, so let's just try and do the best we can. It would be approximately right here. Okay? And then what you're going to do is you're going to try and draw the best circle that you can. So you're going to connect these outside points. And try and actually make it look like a circle. Don't just make it end up looking like a square because you're connecting them, you know, in a straight line. Please try and make it look like a circle. Okay, and there our circle is graphed. Alright, with this next example, x plus 2 quantity squared plus y squared equals 20. So our center, the 2 is with the x. We're going to do the opposite of that, so that's going to be negative 2. And the y doesn't have anything with it. So if it doesn't have anything with it, then that is 0. So our center is at negative 2, 0. Okay? Then we're going to take the square root of the number that's on the right side, 20, and that's going to equal our radius. Well, the square root of 20 is not a perfect square, so we're going to simplify this. So remember, we can break it down. And that would be 4 times 5, and 4 breaks down 2 times 2. So if I had you write this in simplified radical form, remember the pairs come to the outside, so it would be 2 radical 5. But really what's going to help us be able to graph this circle is knowing what the decimal value is. So if you type that into your calculator, we're going to round it, and it's going to be approximately 4.5. So that's what we're going to use for our radius. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to graph your center at negative 2, 0. And then we're going to use the approximation of our radius, which is 4.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5. This is what it is to the right, and then go up 4.5, to the left approximately there, and then down. And then go ahead and try and draw your circle. It's not a very good circle this time. Okay, and that's how you graph circles. Alright, we're going to need to be able to go backwards too, where if they give you the center and the radius, they're going to expect you to write the equation. So keep in mind that our standard form is x minus h, so we're going to take this h value of our center, we're going to put it in our equation, but just remember we took the opposite to write down what the center is, so putting it back in the equation you're going to put the opposite, so it's going to be, well, let me erase that, sorry, it's going to be x plus 4 quantity squared plus, now we're going to take our y value of our center and put it with the y. So y, we're going to do the opposite, which is minus 3 quantity squared. Okay, and then for the right side, remember it's going to be your r squared, so we're going to take our 4 and we're going to square it. Okay, and then just simplify it. So it'd be x plus 4 quantity squared plus y minus 3 quantity squared equals 16. And there's your equation. Okay, here's another example. The center is 8, 1.2. The radius is 3.4. So pause the video and I want you to write down what the equation would be. Okay, here's what you should have gotten for your equation. So check your answer and make sure that you got the correct equation. Okay, example 5. Write the equation for the circle x squared plus y squared equals 7 that has been shifted right 2 and down 3. So we're rewriting this equation. So I want you to think about something. When you had your center that was to the right 2 and down 3, in the equation it was, you know, normally we would think right would be a plus, but remember in the equation it was the opposite. So if I have my equation x squared plus y squared equals 7, if I shift it to the right 2 and down 3, it's not going to affect my radius, so my radius is going to stay the same. Okay? But if I go to the right 2, I'm going to be subtracting 2 with my x value. So it's going to be x minus 2 quantity squared plus, if I go down 3, we usually think of that as minus 3, but in my equation it's going to be plus 3. So we have y plus 3 quantity squared. So think about that for a second. If I was to write down what my center is, my center would be the opposite, which would be positive 2 and negative 3. Okay, well, did it actually shift? Because here my center was 0, 0. So if you go from 0, 0 to positive 2, negative 3, it did. It moved right 2 and down 3. So this would be the equation of the equation shifted. So let's look at another example. Same directions. We have the equation x plus 3 quantity squared plus y plus 2 quantity squared equals 25. So here's our circle, and they want our circle to shift to the left 1 and up 2. So like I just showed you in the previous example, hopefully you realize that you're going to use, you know, the opposite of common sense. So when you move left 1, we normally think that would be a minus 1. But to put it in the equation, we're going to have to add 1. And then if we go up 2, you're going to subtract 2. And since there's numbers already in there, then we are going to have to add those numbers together. So we're going to have x plus 4 quantity squared plus 2 minus 2 would just be 0, so that would just be y squared, and it doesn't affect our radius at all, so our radius, well, our equation is still going to be equal to 25. Okay, so for our last example, let's put everything that we know about circles and let's review a few things. So this equation is not in standard form, so the first thing we want to do is we want to get it in standard form, and then after that we're going to write down what the center and the radius is, and then we're going to graph it. Okay, so I want you to pause the video and I want you to use what you know about circles, try and get this into standard form, and then when you're ready to check your answer, go ahead and hit play. Okay, here's what you should have gotten for your equation. Notice that at the beginning, because they had the y's listed first and the x's second, I just rearranged it and put the x's first and the y's second. And since I'm not crossing over the equal sign, you don't have to change the signs. Okay, that's today's lesson. Please come to class with your notes filled out, answer your WISC, and I will see you in class.